Sup team, it's been a while, but I'm back with another video. This is going to be a shorter one because, everyone and their mothers are doing power rankings for Worlds. I figured I would put my own opinion into the mix, so I'm going to show you my power rankings overall, and then I'm going to show you my pick'ems for the bracket state, or into the bracket stages, then the group stages, and let's get right into it. Well, first, up in the S tier, I have the Rocks Tigers. Obviously, they're probably one of the far and away best teams in the world. They dominated all of LCK. A bunch of people have said, they're just looking amazing right now. They're above and beyond everything they've ever done before, and hands down the best team coming into Worlds. Mostly agreed on everyone. Some people might say, SKT could be up there too, but are a step below Rocks Tigers. But I'll go into my A tier using SKT as a bridge. So SKT, TSM, and EDG, I feel like a lot of people are overestimating SKT and EDG and underestimating TSM, so I put them together in this A bracket. Now, TSM, they have been super dominant during their NALCS run, and throughout the entire season they have been really good at solving major issues, major problems, and when things have come up they were immediately changed, and save for the Phoenix 1 victory where they pulled out Rengar and completely cheesed TSM. But people who say TSM is weak against cheese, that's not going to be a problem anymore, guys. Let's be real. The last time that happened in Worlds was, I think it was 2013. So don't worry about TSM getting cheesed. It's not going to happen. Don't worry about it. They're in super strong form right now, and I feel like they probably have the best chance of going to the semifinals for NA since probably 2012, Season 2 Worlds. So I feel like TSM can make a super strong run. SKT, they're in the same situation as they got to Worlds as CLG was, where they did amazing spring split. They got first at MSI. They came into the summer split, then they just kind of sucked, and they were slumping really hard. They lost to the Freak of Freaks both times they saw them. They lost to KT Rolster. They lost to almost every team at least once, and they were having some pretty big issues that still don't seem to have been solved. SKT, they technically, some might argue, are the fourth best team in Korea, because technically KT Rolster beat them to get to the finals, that the Rocks Tigers won over KT Rolster, and KT Rolster fanboys are pretty sad about that. I'm a KT Rolster fanboy. I was sad about that, but let's be real, KT Rolster are not above and beyond SKT. SKT were just slumping. I feel like they're still slumping, and they might be able to solve these issues before Worlds comes around. It's very likely, considering their coaching staff and their work ethic, that they will make a big splash. So I expect them to do well, but they might drop a game or two. I mean, they even dropped games in the group stages at MSI when they were hot. So while they're cold right now, they might drop more than one game. I doubt they won't make it out of groups, and I'll show you that in a little bit. EDG, once again, their latest showing was against a super weak RNG team, and let's be honest, although EDG is super duper strong, I feel like their latest competition was not, and we've either not seen their full potential, or they only look really good because the other teams they were facing were weak. Some argue the same things for the European side as well, but I'll get to that in a little bit. EDG, I still feel like they're one of the strongest teams. They are the best team coming out of China. They deserve that #1 spot, and they're definitely making it into the next round. It's just a matter of, I don't think they're going to drop any games, and they might lose out in the quarterfinals depending on who they face off against. Now, this B tier, C9, obviously going to have it the hardest. They looked the best, second best behind TSM from NA going into Worlds, and a lot of people are saying they're finally back in form. Meteos is looking great again, and Meteos can pull out his Zac again at Worlds. I think Zac might be a playable champion. I don't think he'll be super pick ban worthy, but he might be a good replacement for the Gragas at the very least. So Meteos might be able to make a bigger splash. Samsung Galaxy, kind of in the same bucket. They looked they were really hot on the patch coming into Worlds. So I like to compare them to the New York Giants when they were coming into the playoffs back in 2008 when they won the Super Bowl against the Patriots. They were just super hot going into the playoffs, and right now they might be really hot going into Worlds, and as a result, they might do really well at Worlds. On the other hand, they are the third seed from Korea coming in, so they might not do as well. They could be in that C plus tier that I have, but I feel like Samsung Galaxy is going to do pretty well. Maybe not as good as TSM, and I forget whoever else is in their group, but I'll pull that up in a little bit. Flash Wolves, strongest team from the LMS. They did not have a winning record against CLG, so at MSI. So at least in recent memory, Flash Wolves have not been super impressive, but they have been a super strong team. So I expect them to do well, but whether or not they get out of groups, that might happen. That might could go either way, really. A lot of people are saying that their mid laner no, wait, I'm mixing them up with AHQ. I'm sorry. I was going to say that their mid laner was weak, but that's AHQ, and that's why they're in the C tier. Flash Wolves historically have been pretty good at Worlds, but new season, new teams, new groups, and I forget what group they're in, but whether or not they make it out, it's going to be entirely up to the other teams in their group. Like I said, Flash Wolves, they're not very good at adapting throughout a series. We saw them against CLG. They won one game and then lost the other 5, I think the record was. They won one game against SKT, but then lost the rest. So they have their plan. They know how to make their game plan. But then it's just a matter of, can they change it to suit their needs on the fly? And that's going to be really telling as to how they succeed. Now, this C plus tier, G2, like I mentioned with EDG, they might just be looking really good because they have weaker competition, or they might actually be pretty good, but we just haven't really seen it. They do have one of the strongest bot lanes in the West that a lot of people have agreed upon. Thorin, Monty, several rioters. They all think Sven and Mithy strongest bot lane, probably stronger than Double Lift and Afromu back in the day. So their bot lane might be able to carry them in their games, as well as Trick being a super strong jungler, and Ninja being a really good mid laner, super flexible, has a really deep champion pool. He might be able to bring all of that out, depending on what their coaches decide are the strongest picks at Worlds. And in their group, in their context, I feel like they have a good chance of making it out. But CLG, once again on that C plus tier, they did not look hot. They're in the same situation as SKT. They're the 4th best team from their region going to Worlds, despite doing really, really well at MSI. They looked really good back then. Internationally, they have done pretty well, not counting 0-10 last year. But MSI, they had a really good showing. They have Reignover to help Xmithy's jungle pathing, which I think is one of the weaker links in CLG. Stixay has been not doing so hot recently, but I feel like with the added boot camping, he and Huhi are going to be able to step it back up. Darshan has been slumping as well because the meta hasn't really been in his favor, but if he can play more champions like Gnar and Echo, and I think there was one more, it's on the tip of my brain, that was Kled. If you can play Kled at Worlds, that might make a really huge difference, because you build Kled basically straight AD, and his mount just gets him a crap ton of tank stats anyway, so he could be making that into a split pushing menace. We don't really know for sure, so I put them at C plus and not B. Same thing with G2. C plus, not B, because we don't really know what the meta is going to hold for them, or whether or not it's going to favor them. And I feel like in their group, it could really be 50-50 for whoever gets out between G2 and CLG, because we all know Rox is going to make it. It's just a matter of, is it going to be Europe or NA? And fortunately, that's going to be the first match we see. Now in this C tier, I have H2K, AHQ, IMA, RNG, and Splice. Now, RNG, a lot of people have mentioned it, a lot of analysts have mentioned it. They have really weak team play. They're not very good in a series, not very good at adapting in a series. So that's going to be probably their biggest downfall. They might win game 1, but then game 2, 3, 4. If they don't have the lead, they're probably going to lose the game. IMA, I feel like I probably could have bumped them up to the C plus tier. I really like the way they looked in the regional finals, but the fact that they only made it 3-2 against Team WE, which is arguably a weaker team, I feel like they might have a tough time when it comes to adapting to the metas of the other regions. So IMA could be a toss-up, but I think they're in Group D, so I feel like they're going to lose out. They're probably going to lose out anyway. I just have to remember what group they're in, but we'll go to my pick'ems in a little bit. H2K and Splice. H2K, I haven't actually, like, in the playoffs, they looked pretty okay. I didn't really think they were super strong or super impressive. Their jungler, Yankos, he made some questionable jungle pathing, jungle decisions, and I feel like if they fix that, could bump H2K up to the C plus tier, but I'm not so sure. Splice, I was a big fan of them back even when they were Dignitas EU, but as far as Worlds goes, I feel like they're the weakest EU team coming in, and even then, just by a little bit compared to H2K, because Splice, you know, once again, same thing as IMA, they looked really decent, but the fact that they only won their series 3-2 against Unicorns of Love, who really don't look as strong as Splice, or don't really seem to have the ceiling that, like, higher ceiling that Splice has. I feel like they might underperform or they might choke because, you know, it's their first time on the super big stages. H2K, some of their players have been in these situations before, so I feel like they might have an easier time. G2, I might be able to bump them up to like a B minus instead of a C plus because Sven and Mithy have been here before. They know exactly what to expect, and they're one of the best, but we're not on them anymore. AHQ, I got them mixed up with Flash Wolves earlier. They're the ones that people are saying, you know, their mid laner is super abusable, and the fact that mid is one of the most important roles, they're the ones that roam around the map and they have to make the plays. So if you can abuse the AHQ mid, you can basically win the game, and depending on their group, they probably won't make it out as a result. And then everyone knows international wildcard probably don't stand a chance. They might take a game off of someone from the C or C plus tier, but that's about it. And in a super lucky world, we might see Albus take a game off of G2 and CLG and win the tiebreakers, go to the quarterfinals, but that is probably not very likely. And I expect them to maybe take a game off of CLG or G2. Probably not both. Probably neither is more likely. Ints, and I'm going to use weird transit properties here. They played against a team from Latin America North. I think it was Kalos. No. Yeah, in their final to get to Worlds, they played against the Latin America North team that I actually used to scrim against, and so I know that, you know, they're not very good because we used to beat them and we were just an NA Challenger team, and if they got beat by this Brazilian team, I feel like NA Challenger in Brazil is probably on the same level. Maybe Brazil is a little bit higher, so I don't see, like, imagine if Echo Fox went to Worlds and put them there instead of Ints. That's probably what you would see. And with this, I'm going to switch to my pick'ems. Here we are. And let's see, let's start with Group A. Rocks Tigers, once again, best team in Worlds right now, so I don't see them dropping a single game. Counterlogic Gaming, like I said, 50-50 with G2. It could come down to, you know, maybe Sven and Mithy completely dominate and keep down Stixay and Afro. Maybe they go even and Afro is able to roam on Bard so he can make plays mid with Huhi, or maybe Reignover helping out X-Mithy improves CLG so much that they just do really well against G2. It could be a real big toss-up because Trick doesn't need that kind of help. He's already a really good jungler. I just chose CLG because I'm a pretty big fan of theirs, as you all know. So CLG, I think they might make it out of the group. Group B, Flash Wolves and SKT, I have them making it out, Cloud9 finishing third, and IMA in fourth. Group B is a really close one because they're all, I wouldn't say equally matched, but you definitely have standouts in Flash Wolves, SKT, and Cloud9, and then IMA, for me, lower on the table. To be honest, that top three could go any which way. I just feel like SKT, they're super slumping right now, and Flash Wolves might be able to at least go 1-1 with them. Cloud9 might be able to take a game off of SKT. Same thing with Flash Wolves, they might be able to take a game off of them too. But, you know, it's all going to come down to what champions are good on these patches for these players. Because if Zach is pretty good, then Meteos might have like 70 KDA performances like he had way back in the day in summer 2013. Or if he's not, then we could just see him fall back on Rek'Sai Gragas. He wasn't really hot on those. He might drop those games against SKT, drop those games against Flash Wolves. I have confidence in Cloud9, but not enough that would warrant them making it out of the group. And then IMA, I just don't really see them doing well at all. Then we have Group C, Edward Gaming, AHQ. Edward Gaming obviously going to make it out of that group. They might drop a game to H2K, but that's the most I see. Because we know Europe is somehow China's kryptonite, as we saw from last year's Worlds. AHQ, H2K, that head-to-head I feel like might go in H2K's favor, but once again, it's another toss-up. I had a really tough time choosing these groups. Like, I had to flip a coin for basically half of the number twos. So, really, AHQ and H2K could go either way in my book. 55-45 to H2K, but I just have more confidence in the LMS. Historically, they've done really well at Worlds, at international competitions, so I feel like they might be able to adapt well enough to beat H2K, and then Ints, they're not going to win a game. They're probably not going to win a game at all. Group D, I have TSM and Samsung Galaxy. I already talked about how Royal Never Give Up kind of sucks right now, or really does suck right now. They're pretty bad. Not on the same level as Splice. I don't see Splice winning a single game in this group. Royal might only get wins against Splice. Samsung Galaxy, probably the same thing. Will probably only win against Royal and Splice. And then TSM, I could see them going 8-0 in this group. They're just super hot right now, and I can see them easily making it out of the out to the quarterfinals. And I think if this is the case, I don't have the brackets pulled up right now, but if everything goes as planned right here, I think TSM would have to face CLG to get to the semis. And hopefully that happens because I have tickets to the semifinals, and I would love to see an NA team in one of them. But yeah, this is how my pick'ems are going. Like I said, a lot of these number 2s and 3s were mostly toss-ups in Group A, B, and C at the very least. Group D, I'm pretty solid on that's what's going to happen. We might see Splice over Royal if Splice can abuse Royal's terrible macro play, but other than this, here's the TLDR. And like I said, this was a shorter video. Thanks for watching. Be sure to follow my Twitter, my Twitch, Patreon. I like to make videos, and I like the motivation of money to make videos. Sorry I haven't made one in a little while. I've been applying for jobs. I've been talking to a few teams about being a coach. TLDR, I might be moving to Australia, so I'll keep you guys updated. And that'll be it from me. Thanks again.